going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. Reminder, if you use code TRIPLE at checkout with Underdog Fantasy, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100 if you are a first-time depositor. You can use it on fantasy baseball drafts for the second half. You can use it on fantasy football, fantasy basketball, anything that tickles your fancy over at Underdog Fantasy. And I don't know, are you guys feeling old? Because it's our 200th episode tonight. As LC brought up prior to the show, we had no idea. If we had known a little bit prior, we probably would have put something big together. But we'll just save that for our 250th episode. We'll make sure we have something big and extravagant planned. But you guys know the deal. Doc, Marty Party, Lil Cheesecake, all with you guys tonight. Fellas, I wanted to start this episode off with a question. And I've been getting a lot of my good questions from this Instagram account that I can't even remember the name of. But he said, would you take $1 million or would you take $10 million to play 9 innings at second base and not commit an error?
Take the million.
I
feel like I'm good with investing. That would be more than $1 million.
I'd make an error. I know it.
So you take the $1 million?
Yeah.
What if the ball didn't get hit you the entire game?
That's what I'm saying. Second base is not like shortstop.
You take the $1 million for sure. Because even when I was a varsity athlete as an outfielder, I played infield just for fun. Yo, could you imagine a major league ground ball? You're not stopping. There's no chance you're stopping that.
I would just probably put my glove to the dirt and then just hope it didn't get a bad hop.
It's gonna hop up, hit your wrist, break it instantly, and you lose $1 million.
I mean, so here's the other side of that. One way you get to play a baseball game in the major leagues. That is the upside.
That's not worth $1 million though.
But you'd lose you'd lose all your money if you made an error in that Major League Baseball game.
I know, but if the experience would be amazing. The experience would be one of the best of your life. I mean, isn't that?
You made an error and you're on the wrong side of fame.
So Art would pay $1 million for a fantasy camp where you can play.
People pay $250,000 to go see the Titanic. $1 million to play second base for the Brewers or something. Come on.
Lost in there is Marty subtly flexing. He was a varsity athlete.
Yeah.
Would you change your guys' mind if it was in like left field?
Basketball?
Left field would be harder.
Or okay, you could pick any position.
I do outfield. I could do outfield without
catching a fly ball is a lot easier, I think, than a ground ball.
The thing that would get me on an outfield is a base hit to the outfield and stopping it on the ground. That's where I would make an error because that's my weak spot
in the outfield. Because if you misjudge a fly ball, that's not an error.
Yeah, that's true.
It has to hit your glove.
Pretty much. For them to call it an error, they're pretty lenient on outfield.
You know what? To be honest, if I was in left field and the ball came at me all the time, I would just avoid it.
They would call that an error. They would.
That's what I'm saying. I would get.
Yeah.
No, you know what I would do is if I was playing left or right, I would just go to the center fielder and I'd say, I'll give you $1 million. If any ball hit to me, you go catch.
I remember I was watching a Cubs-Reds game a couple of years ago. And Scott Schebler couldn't see the ball in right field, so he completely missed one. And then the next one, the ball came to him, and he went like this, and Billy Hamilton just runs over and like catches it in front. I was like, dude's literally saved his life.
I can't even imagine, even with sunglasses on like a really sunny afternoon at like Wrigley or one of those stadiums, that like if a ball is hit sky high, how you're able to track it. Like how high they hit the balls, and if the sun is out at that right spot, like I can't even imagine.
I want to play outfield in the major leagues for one day. I think that would be worth $1 million with the chance at 10. If it was outfield and not second base, I would have taken it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm decent. I'm a decent high school level outfielder. So there's a possibility I could get it.
He was replacement level at the high school level.
Not on defense, only at hitting.
What was your WAR?
We didn't know.
We didn't do that back then.
How did I think WAR was a stat when I was in high school? I don't think so.
Way to age yourself.
And then I don't know, when did WAR come out? I was in high school in the 90s. No one ever talked about WAR in the 90s.
It's definitely been around a while. I don't know if it's in the 90s, but it's one of the more advanced stats that came early.
Yeah,
maybe one of our listeners will. I can Google it at some point.
Maybe. I did want to defend myself on the not bringing up episode 200, and it ties in the 90s thing in that talking about cool things makes them less cool, and that's like directly from the 90s. I don't know if you guys know that people in the 90s felt like it was posing if you brought up accomplishments. It's much cooler if someone else brings them up, and that's where I'm coming from. That's why I sprung it on you guys. Hey guys, episode 200.
I like it.
That's why I did it.
Well, we're going to do it big for episode 250. So, but make sure you guys stay tuned. I know with episode 100, we did like a whole 2-hour panel of people coming on like every 10 minutes. It was pretty wild. Maybe we'll do something like that. To answer your war question though, they said it's been around for over 30 years, starting in 1982. So
I didn't know that. Yeah, I did not know that.
But anyway, yeah, so we'll do it big for 250. But thank you guys for that. Been sticking with us for 200 episodes. Honestly, the fact that we've been doing 200 of these over 3 years, 4 years now, it's just absolutely mind-boggling. One episode a week, pretty much for 4 years. Because I think you said there's a couple lost episodes in there too, right, Elsie?
There's one lost episode, which counts towards Marty's first 100. And Marty's nearly at 100 on the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball show. So the lost episode was when we didn't realize that StreamYard, you couldn't download if you didn't pay for the account on StreamYard.
That's right. That was awful.
And we did a whole episode and it's on our Twitter account from like 2021 or something. But we couldn't put out the podcast. I think we had to put out an interview that we did that week for our show.
That's right. Yeah. I remember trying for days after to salvage it. Like I was like emailing StreamYard. I was like I was like anything we could do to salvage this recording. Even if I pay right now, can I get this recording? And it just, it was, that was fun.
You wouldn't know we're talking about All-Stars because almost 8 minutes in and we haven't referenced what we're talking about yet.
I know. Well, so we'll talk about the main point of the show tonight is talking about just the overall first half of the fantasy baseball season. And I want to set the stage for you guys. I wish I could dim the lights to make it a little bit more dramatic. But in what was a first half that we saw Ellie De La Cruz, Corbin Carroll, and many a pitcher electrify the potential to electrify all of baseball, to the potential demise of Lance Lynn, Alek Manoah, Corbin Burns, Sandy Alcantara, Aaron Nola, and other high-end pitchers struggling to acclimate to what could be maybe as the pitch clock this season. To Shohei Ohtani once again showing the world he's potentially the greatest baseball player ever. There were so many storylines in the first half that were amazing, exciting, and I think is going to bring a lot of potential fantasy goodness in for the second half. So I do want to talk with you guys just a couple trends and notes from the first half. You can feel free to jump in your thoughts at any point and just cut me off. But first, let's talk about some hitting. So overall in the first half, we had a 248 league-wide batting average and a 297 BABIP. If you think that's low with what we expected with the shift, well, last year it was a 243 BABIP and 243 batting average and a 290 BABIP, and a 241 batting average and 287 BABIP the year before that. So basically, batting average has gone up 5 points from last season, and BABIP has gone up 7 points from last season. So again, is 7 points of batting average or 5 points of batting average and 7 BABIP points a big deal? That's for you to decide.
I was going to say, if you look at your roto team, a 15-team roto league. Let's say if you added 5 batting average percents to that would move you up a lot.
Mm-hmm. So I do think it is a big deal. And right now, if batting average stays where it's going, it's going to be the highest league-wide batting average since 2019. Staying with hitting, let's talk about home run and fly ball rates over the first half. It's 12.3% this year compared to 11.4% last season. So nearly a 1% increase in the home run to fly ball rate. So, I mean, power, it's still, it's not the juice ball era, right? But there are still, I would say it's not a dead end ball like we saw at points last season, but it's not a home run happy ball. I think this is like the first time genuinely feels like good home run hitters are hitting home runs and ones that don't genuinely aren't hitting them. So I think that's
staying true with a 3 outcome type of hitter, strikeout, walk, homer.
Well, they were trying to get rid of that and have more. That's why they got rid of the shift, and the ball's not just jumps over the fence every time. So
What
I think
I would like to see is plate appearances. Have plate appearances gone up?
I'd imagine so.
Right. So I would imagine that like the reason more runs are scoring, even though the home run rate is staying it's not as high, more people are getting on base. There's more runners.
I feel like pitchers have thrown less too, and so batters are seeing more relievers, and the familiarity is probably a little bit. Batters aren't familiar with some of the pitchers that they're seeing because I feel like more pitchers are being used, and I feel like less games I've seen this year, position players are throwing in the end of a game.
Well, sorry, I just wanted to bring up like what you see with things like Luis Arraez's batting average. This is one of the, I think one of the effects of the change. I'm not sure. Arraez was a 330 hitter last year, but he's hitting. Is he still hitting close to 400 right now?
It's like 380.
380 right now. This is statistically, it's not like the home run era of 2019. It's not that bouncy rabbit ball era. It's a lot more fun to have all these stolen bases. It's a lot more fun to have. And it's hard to say what's causing this. Is it the pitch clock? Is it the shift, the pitch clock? Marty's nodding.
I definitely think it's the pitch clock.
Well, also the fact that now you can only throw over twice. So like pretty much once you throw over twice, I haven't watched enough games closely to see someone like Ellie De La Cruz who has 16 steals already.
He goes. He's
like,
goes.
yeah, like
I've been watching him every game. He goes. It don't matter. You can try to hold him. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, 16 steals in 20 games is absolutely nuts. But speaking of steals, there are two players that have already 40-plus steals this year. Keep in mind, John Birdie led all of baseball last year with 41. The only player that stole 40 or more bases. Right now, Eury Ruiz has more stolen bases at halfway point than Birdie had last season. And there's 8 players right now currently on pace to get 40 or more stolen bases. 2 had 40 or more stolen bases 2 years ago with Starling Marte and Whit Merrifield. And right now, as a league, they're on pace for more stolen bases since 1987.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I mean, they made the bases larger, right?
Bases larger, the pickoff rules, the pitch clock. There's so many things that are to help the stolen bases, and it's definitely showing. I feel like, though, not as many people are stealing bases, but the ones that already steal bases are now just stealing more bases. Is that fair?
That's right. And I think that's making it harder to catch up if you're down on steals in fantasy baseball, because the people who have steals have a lot of steals. Like if you're sitting there with Eury Ruiz on your roster, and you could have like 150 steals already. There's the leader of the main event has almost 200 steals already right now on his season. And my teams my steals are solid. They're not bad. And I'm 100 steals on my season already. I think if you're sitting down in steals now, if you're down at like 50, 60 steals, it's going to be really hard to get those points back in your roto season.
I think this is going to place a premium on stolen bases. You remember last year when everybody was putting a premium on saves and you'd see Hader and Edwin Diaz go in the second round? I think that's what you're going to see with speed guys next year.
Yeah, someone might wait for someone like Eury Ruiz and be like, "Hey, I'll just."
Eury Ruiz might be a 5th or 6th round pick. Like if he didn't get hurt, he was on pace for like 79 steals.
Yeah, but he has 1 home run. Like, I don't know if he'd be a 5th or 6th round pick. I could see him being like an 8th or 9th.
Reach on him if they need speed, and if he's the leader in stolen bases and can almost single-handedly help you in that category.
Well, I think what a lot of people will probably do is look what, like they'll look kind of what the average amount of stolen bases were for a team, basically to try to like check the median outcome. What do I need is like to get like a median outcome of steals, and then try to calculate it. Be like, all right, let's say 150 steals is that way I won't finish last in the category, or like I'll finish more in the middle. Like they'll look at how like it played out. And they'll be like, okay, I'll just get 80, or I'll get like, I'll play it safe. I'll get 60 with Eury Ruiz if he stays healthy. And then they can backline it that way. But I think, again, we were talking about knowing that the guys that are going to steal a lot of bases. And the guys that we think might steal a lot of bases are probably not going to.
Do you think projections next year are going to project 60 steal seasons?
I do.
That's what's crazy is like now we have to say, all right, is this the new normal, or is this season going to be, people going, oh my God, I'm a kid in a candy store. I can't believe how the 6 inches shorter and the pickoff rules, and I'm going all the time. Are they going to dial back a little? I don't know. But like 60 steal season projections, like the top projection was probably like 35 this year, something like that.
Yeah, probably like 35, 40 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you have to, unless there's something that changes the rules. Like you'll have a good amount of evidence, because it won't just be like one player. Like I said, 8 players are right now projected to steal 40 or more bases if they finish on the pace they are right now. So like you have to factor that data in. Like I think it would be irresponsible for the projection systems to not update with the new data. So that will definitely impact drafting for sure. But speaking of drafting, we have to also talk about pitchers and how they've changed this year. So this year's ERA is a collective 4.29 ERA and 1.31 WHIP, which is way up from last season. Last season, the ERA was 3.97. So again, 3.97 compared to a 4.29 ERA, and a 1.21 WHIP last year compared to a 1.31 WHIP. Again, is it the dead end baseball changes, the shift rules? Was it better starting pitching overall last year? I don't know. But it's interesting. This was a tweet from Ryan Bloomfield. He put out a Bloom board, and he said 9 of 15, according to ADP, 9 of the first 15 starting pitchers taken are top 35 starters. So you get about a 66% hit rate. 6 of the top 16 to 30 ranked starting pitchers have been top 35. So you have 6 out of 15 of the next tier that stayed in the top 35. So it's been a very big dramatic drop off. And we talked about Corbin Burns hasn't looked Corbin Burns. Alcantara hasn't looked good. Aaron Nola hasn't looked good. Verlander hasn't. Like these were guys that were drafted and are still top 35 starters, but like, I mean, they're not great. They're definitely not performing like you thought they would. Then you have the people like Alek Manoah and Lance Lynn who were dropped in a lot of leagues throughout the season.
Do not put Lance Lynn in the same breath as Alek Manoah just yet.
But they're 2 of your guys, though. They're both. I mean, not
my dudes. I mean, if we're slamming beers, having a good time, these are my guys. But I'm just saying, Lance Lynn, and I'll get to this later on my people maybe to buy. But Lance Lynn, I like what I'm seeing. Alek Manoah, and he did against the Tigers. We'll see. Who knows? Yeah,
but it's definitely a very troubling trend for starting pitching again.
Don't be fat.
Yeah, you got to be in condition.
You got to be in shape.
But we'll close out the trends with this last. It's actually positive here. There are 9 players at the break with 20 or more saves, and then 26 that have 10 or more saves. Keep in mind, in 2022 and 2021, only 6 players had 20 or more saves at the break. So we have 3 more players with 20 or more saves at the break here. And I just think in general, just right now, there's more reliable high-end closers this season. And not as many closing injuries. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but like, Alexis Diaz has been dominant. Josh Hader has been great. Iglesias has blown 7 saves, but he still has the job and he's been healthy for the most.
Told you Iglesias sucks, by the way.
I'm trying to think of, Diaz got hurt. That was the one big one, but it happened before the season.
AJ Puck got hurt for a period.
But Hendricks.
But again, they were hurt before the season.
Yeah.
Hendricks was.
Puck got hurt midseason.
No, but for the most part, like Presley still stayed there.
Ryan Helsley
hasn't gotten hurt. I mean, he did get hurt, but
what do you mean? He's been hurt for over a month.
He was gonna get benched before that, but he did get hurt.
And he wasn't a full closer.
The flip side is how hard it is to find saves now, though. There aren't closers available. Like where are you gonna go? Like Trevor May's been the only closer. Trevor May's sitting out there like a fart in the wind on the waiver wire.
Shout out to Trevor May. I touted him a little bit before the
he did. Edward Alzolay's kind of stepped into the closer role for the Cubs.
Yes.
So he's someone. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how available Alzolay is, but
the Rays have been messing around in their bullpen.
Well, Fairbanks, when he's been healthy, I feel like it's most of them. Adams definitely does get mixed in, but I Fairbanks definitely has been the guy for the most part. But like again, like I think that every year we get frustrated, but I feel like for the most part, the closers you drafted to be elite closers, as long as they weren't hurt going into the season, have kept their job and been somewhat decent. Kenley Jansen.
Everyone's waiting on that Dodgers closer. Like
Evan Phillips, babe.
Evan Phillips, yeah, he probably has it. It's probably him now.
I mean, he only had a bad recent outing because that was his third day pitching in a row, but I think he has like 13 saves.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But those are some trends just from the first half. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more stuff to come in the second half. But yeah, I want to transition, though, to your story from the first half. So do you guys have something, if you were to put the first half into a picture, into something that just sticks out to you when you think of how the first half of baseball went? It could be fantasy related. It could be real life. What is something that stands out to you from the first half?
For me, it's that I think a good general manager and team building goes a long way. You know, you look at teams that have spent a lot, like the Mets. There was a tweet that went out that was like, Scherzer, Verlander, Alonso, and Lindor make as much as like the Braves starting nine, because the Braves do a really good job of locking up their talent when they're young, and they have a really good farm system. You know, they bring in veterans like Charlie Morton and Iglesias, and they had sustained success. And the Mets look good on paper, but I don't think they're a very well-run organization. You know, same with the Padres. They've been very underperforming, and they have a huge payroll. Same with the Yankees to some extent. A lot has fallen apart with the Aaron Judge injury. And, you know, you look at teams like the Rays that have just done things right for years, and, you know, they've been pretty well. You know, the Rangers seem to be turning it around, and
the Rangers spent a lot of money, though.
But I was going to say, they're not even getting production out of DeGrom for the most part.
But Seager and Semien were both big parts of their.
Seager and Semien, but
they also brought in John Gray. They brought in.
They
brought in Andrew Heaney. They brought in Tyler Anderson. Not Tyler Anderson. Evaldi. They brought in a lot of players.
But those were a little bit more low key signings. But you know, and look at a team like the Reds that has probably one of the most exciting young cores, and their payroll isn't big at all. But they've been savvy with who they want to bring up.
Well, both the Padres and the Mets are in fourth place in their division. I think the Mets are like 18 games out of first place. So they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot if at all they can get anything. But yeah, I think more than ever, money's not necessarily buying championships in baseball. It's definitely getting the right talent, developing. Again, the Reds and Orioles look set for a long time, very, very long time, until all these young players are due for contracts. And then we'll see if they're going to be willing to spend or if they'll just go through a rebuild again. But for right now, both the Reds and the Orioles and the Rays are always there. Obviously, the same type of deal. And the who's the other team with a really good farm system? I'm forgetting. There's another one that will come to me, but there's like the big three. It's the Reds, the Orioles, and the I'll remember when it comes back to me. But like, there's some teams that are doing it right for sure.
Yeah, I think that for me, the story of the first half has been the difficulty in predicting who's going to be a solid starting pitcher. I think a lot of people have had a lot of trouble keeping their pitching healthy. My DC teams, my triple players ball team my pitching staff is on life support. I drafted, and I was telling everybody, hey, you got to draft a lot of pitchers this season. I drafted 24 pitchers. I have 9 healthy pitchers on my team. And it's really, you come in with all these pitchers that you expect to be good. And we were talking all off season about how deep the starting pitching pool is, how comfortable we felt going deep into the starting pitching pool. Why we shouldn't. We didn't know what the heck we were talking about. My pitching is not good in many places, and I feel okay about that, because a part of me thinks that this season, the people who did well in pitching got pretty lucky. I think that this season has been brutal for injuries and predicting who was going to react well to these changes. I don't say that people who did well are lucky. I mean, I was poor, so maybe there's a little bit of bitter grape juice in my part. But But I think pitching has been the story of the season so far, like, and how hard it's been to predict.
Yeah, it really has. It's been harder than any year I can remember. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how drafts go next year, because you do a mock of a first round. Is any pitcher going in the first round right now? Maybe Strider. Maybe that's the only one. Like, it's got it. You think it's probably like some combination of Acuna, Judge, Tatis, Corbin Carroll, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman.
I think there's going to be over the next few months, we're really going to see pitchers adapt to the pitch clock and just honestly, man, this is like almost like a brand new game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like stolen bases are literally through the roof. Like it's absolutely incredible. It's something that, and I don't know if there's any like fantasy football. I don't play that. I play fantasy basketball. I feel like you could take a few years off and the game's going to be pretty much similar. With baseball, if you're not paying attention, the game's completely different.
Yeah.
Like,
no, definitely. Yeah. I mean, with the ball and everything else, it changes so much. So like, and obviously the rules are changing a lot too. So I'm interested to see the analysis as we'll go into in the off season.
The last thing I'll say is that batting average for me has been a struggle.
Okay.
And like, we're even with teams where I'm number one overall with home runs, RBIs, runs, they're all there, but average itself has been hard for me to balance with that output. So I don't know what that means. I guess we'll see over the next few months, but maintaining batting average has been very tough for me throughout the year. And it was something that, like, when you looked at projections, it was like, oh, this team's going to do very well in batting average, but that's not happening. So I guess we will see.
I think my story of the first half is just Ohtani. I think for the first time, and he's been doing it now for a couple of years, I've really, when he was getting hot in June, he hit 15 of his 32 home runs in June. And the 2 home run, 10 strikeout game. I just sat there and I was just like, this is gonna be one of those things that like 10 years from now, you'll be like, man, like there was nobody like Shohei Ohtani. And I don't think there's any player I've ever felt that way about. Like, there's some good baseball players, but I do feel like it's like, man, like this is literally, you might be watching the greatest baseball player of all time. Like, people might talk about his stretch. Yeah. Like his stretch.
You absolutely are. Like,
his stretch of what will be 3, 4, 5 years that he'll be able to keep doing all, like, we're watching the best stretch of baseball of any player of all time. And
against the best players of all time. Shout out to Alan Trammell, Detroit Tigers, Hall of Fame shortstop. He even said himself on a broadcast a few days ago, he's like, almost every player is stronger, faster, and better than any of us when we were coming in the 70s and 80s. It's like, what Shohei's doing is just...
And you get almost numb to it. Because it's like, all right, he goes out every 5th outing.
That's what I'm saying, Doc. Like, for the first time, I stopped being numb to it, and I actually sat back and just like was like, holy crap! Like, this dude
he does it so effortless.
Hot take: next year, fade Shohei Ohtani because he's a free agent and it's his first year in a new contract. Yeah. He's showing off for his free agent.
I say I faded him every year.
Half a Billy deal. I don't know.
I mean, to be fair. These are probably the best years of Ohtani. I can't see him pitching as much as he is now in future years once he gets paid.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like
I think he will be
trying to push this much to pitch next
year. He will be this good of a hitter, no doubt. But will he be this good of a pitcher? Like, he might be somebody that you have, maybe every 5th, 6th day, or somebody that's a long reliever. But I don't think you could expect him to be a starter 2-3 years down the road and throw every 5th day like he is. He's already had a couple elbow issues.
I mean, that my only thought is, like, when you're in a contract year, you work through injuries a little more. I hesitate to say that Shohei Ohtani is immune from contract year normalization, like every other major hitter that has come before him, or most other major hitters.
Do you think he gets traded?
I was going to ask that. If you're the Angels, do you trade him?
Who's the guy who said the Yanks are number one to be able to?
I just saw that on Twitter. I forgot who it was.
Who the Yankees going to trade? Who are they going to trade?
Yeah, I mean,
Jason Dominguez.
Anthony
Tyler
Volpe probably starts that conversation.
Wells, right? Austin Wells, isn't that
the catcher?
The catcher, he'll be a first baseman. But
I mean, you probably have to give up the farm because I see the Yankees were gonna give him that $600 million deal.
Oswaldo, it's probably gone.
I mean, I would imagine you probably have to give up maybe two of your top 5 prospects and maybe 3 of your top 10.
I mean,
sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to take it off in a different direction. Go ahead.
So was I. I was going to say, if Ohtani gets moved, you own him right now in a whatever league. He goes to the Yankees, good for hitting, bad for pitching. Are most people using him as a hitter at this point? Like, is there any place where Ohtani goes where his value decreases?
That would be a good poll to put on Twitter. David, put it out. You have the most followers.
I think most people already use him as a hitter for the most part, unless he has a two start week.
Or if your pitching is worse than your hitting because he's a top 10 starter. God, if you have other hitters, I was thinking that too, Marty. Yeah,
that's so stupid. Like, what are we talking about?
If your hitting is solid, you got a top 10 starter you can throw in every week. It's crazy. Yeah.
We are legit, watching greatness. If you picked Shohei Ohtani MVP picks, you could already cash your ticket in. I think even if, God forbid, he got hurt, he'd still be winning. He'd still win MVP.
If Baltimore puts forward their best offer, who can beat it?
The Reds.
The Reds and Diamondbacks. That was the other team, by the way, the Diamondbacks. Those are I think the top 3 farm systems right now. I mean,
we also have to rank, like, does their team care about winning? Like,
Baltimore does this year.
No, Baltimore does not.
Historically, they don't care.
Yeah, the Reds don't either.
Yeah, they don't.
They want to build. The Diamondbacks do.
They just want to not be in the red. Like, it's a business.
No team is in the red though. Come on.
Not if you ask them.
Nobody's coming to games.
They're losing money.
I mean, those teams could do it, but then they're not signing him to that type of money that he's going to want. And why would you give up all your best players for half a season of Ohtani if you're not?
I mean, the thing is, the Angels might have to trade him at a certain point. They're 45-46 right now. They're 1-9 in their last 10. Mike Trout is going to be out the next 6 to 8 weeks. It's like, are you going to think that you can make the playoffs in the AL East where everybody's above 500? And you're gonna
they're not getting a wild card spot.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna risk losing him for nothing. So it might be they have to take an offer, and then
I go back, and not to cross sports because I don't usually do that, but I go back to the LeBron James and the decision. Like, if Cleveland has the ability to trade him, knowing he's going to leave, you got to do it. Like, Ohtani's not going to stay there. There's no chance he's staying with the Angels. Literally zero.
I think the only reason they don't trade him is if they get some kind of inclination that he might stay. That'd be the only way I don't see.
Wouldn't he say it though? At this point, he seems like the type of guy that wouldn't BS around.
He has agents that loses all leverage.
Sure, I understand the business of it, but it just seems like I don't think there's any way he stays.
I feel like he's the type of guy that says, "I just want to play ball. I don't want to talk anything until the season's over," type of thing. Yeah. So that would be the Angels would have to guess. But I mean,
he doesn't come out in the public like that. Like he has interpreters, but he doesn't. People don't really know Ohtani's personality. We're all speculating now what we think his personality is.
Well, let's end it with this because I know we got some other things we want to talk about. The fact that you see players taking pictures with him like they were at the All-Star game, like he was like a celebrity, that players doing that just says all you need to know about how the world and his peers think of Shohei Ohtani because they know
he's replaced Mike Trout as even players are like, hey man, do you mind signing this bat for me?
Yeah. It's honestly pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I know there were a couple other things we wanted to talk about today. LC, there were some people that were still hurting, even with not as much baseball being played. So we got to acknowledge the people we got to talk about for Bring Out Your Dead.
Absolutely. Bring out your dead, everyone. Let me pull up this wonderful Bring Out Your Dead. Bring Out Your Dead. Thank you for this graphic. I wanted to let everyone bring out your dead this week. Brought to you by The Unathletic. Hey, how about watching something that won't lose you money or you won't be angry at the end of it? Try a sitcom. The Unathletic, available everywhere. First off, on Bring Out Your Dead. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Brought up by Ron Bauer. Will he rebound to 2021 levels? That's what I want to know. One thing I can say is he hit a lot of home runs in the home run derby. Thank goodness for that. And his barrel rates are at the best level since they've been since 21, not at 2021 levels. But if you look at what 2021, that beautiful 48 home run season, had differently than the rest of his career, the walk rate was remarkably higher. He's been 8, 8, 12, 8, 8 in walk rate. And the batting average 270, 260, 311, 274, 274. It seems like, as we've seen so far, 2021 has been the aberration for Guerrero. He's an excellent hitter. He plays every game. The projections have him for anywhere from 14 to 16 more home runs on his 13 that he has so far. So they're projecting him to get to the upper 20s, and the barrel rate, hard hit rate are pretty good. He should get there. Production has not been there. So, Ron, I hear you. I don't think Vlad is a first-round pick next year. I think Vlad slips. I don't think people are going to have the trust in him next year that they've placed in him over the last few years. So, Vlad's a tough one. But on the whole, he's not really killing you, but it's not first round. One Bartholomew Tallman brings up Jeremy Pena. 10 team only, though, Marty says. But 10 teams, I'm not sure. He's the number 20 shortstop overall on the Razzball Player Rater, sitting at a 700 OPS. What are we doing, Pena? Now, this is I was surprised by last season's 22 home runs for Jeremy Pena. To be honest with you, he did not look like the type of hitter who had that power profile coming up with his minor league statistics. And it was a surprise, but we have seen from 2022 to 2023, his approach is very similar. His XBA is almost the same. His X-Slug almost the same. His WOBA and X-WOBA are almost identical. His hard hit rate, very similar. K rate, very similar. Walk rate actually improved. Results not there. I think what this shows you is that maybe last year was a power outlier season for Pena. He may not have the power that he showed last season. And I didn't think he had that power, but he has dropped his batting average from his minor league production, where he was a very solid batting average play, to a middle of the pack league average batting average play now, about a 250 career hitter so far, right about league average right now, with a little bit more pop. That's a solid approach when you're coming up to the bigs. You're going to get better contracts with that approach, but we may experience inconsistent results, and we are seeing that with Pena so far. Next up, Bryce Miller, blisters everywhere, and not an inning pitched. What are we doing, Bryce? I see a tweet from Shannon Dreyer. Bryce Miller throwing from flat ground. He should be ready to go out of the break in one of the back of the rotation spots. Hopefully all you Bryce Miller owners get to plug him into your lineup. Maybe it won't be till next week, however, but next week might be a 2-start week. What are we going to see from Bryce? Coming back from those blisters, is he going to be the Bryce Miller that we saw in the first 31 innings where he gave up 4 earned runs, or in the 27 after that where he gave up 22 earned runs? Of course, Doc brings up Bryce, and of course we blame Doc for Bryce's downfall.
Wait. Am I crazy for the comparison? That's just first person I
Okay, so Bryce Miller, Doc wants to know if we agree, and if Bryce Miller looks like one of the members of Blink-182 from
Tom DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge.
I didn't know that. Okay.
In the first date video.
First date. Okay, there it is. I did not know.
Never knew where that gift was.
I did not know which Blink-182 video that was from. Blink-182, outstanding band. Get into them if you're into music. They just play good music. I mean, when back in the 90s when Blink-182 came out, there was like you were encamped. Oh, I can't like them. They're posers. But they're just good. Is he look like him? I think he does. He looks like that meme, the WTF meme. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The
The
WTF.
one he posted. Yeah.
Yes. The WTF meme. I think he
thinking
does.
about that for so long, and I'm glad I
does.
finally had a chance to bring it out.
It's true. But what are we gonna get next week? 2-start week. We'll see. Hopefully that blister's healed and that fastball gets the results it was getting the first 31 innings. Our next tweet here from 643 Fantasy, who has 3 names. Now 643, I know when someone adds 3 names, they're feeling a lot of pain. I want you to know my DMs are open. Send me a message. If it's bad enough, I'll give you my phone number. But I see who you put here, and I know it's bad based on the names you put. DJ LeMahieu, MJ Melendez, and Colton Wong. Now we're going to start with Colton Wong. Colton Wong, number 1,121 on the Razzball Player Rater. He has given you negative $27 in value on this season. 1 home run, 0 stolen bases. Colton Wong, maybe, I mean, he was a top 250 pick. He may be, he's in the top 10 worst picks of the draft, I think, because top 250.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was a middle infielder. He was somebody I was, I knew that going from Milwaukee to Seattle, there would be a drop off, but Jesus.
Such a rough season for Wong. Maybe a bargain next year. Pick 500. I think we're going to be diving back in on our DCs next year on Colton Wong, but this year it's really hard. DJ LeMahieu, another one who has been awful this year. Number 564 on that Razzball Player Rater, negative 12. Lowest zone contact of career. Lowest expected batting average of his career. I think DJ LeMahieu is looking kind of washed. Anyone who says otherwise, tell me why. I think LeMahieu is kind of washed.
I do too.
Yeah,
only people like saying he's not are people who own his jersey and they just don't want to let it go.
I just don't know what to expect from him next season. He's going to be a late DC pick. Definitely not with any hope. Just a stab. MJ Melendez, third person, 643 Fantasy brought up. Now, MJ 643, I got to tell you, it's not all bad news, although MJ has been a lot of bad news. His zone contact is below 70% right now, which is way below league average. And that is a bad sign. That is not what we saw last season from him. His zone contact last season was nearly 80%, which was still below league average. But with the power that Melendez has with his profile, getting close to league average is very good. Barrels have been strong for MJ Melendez. He's at a better barrel rate than last season, but the home runs aren't following. So it's a weird profile. I don't want to say if you look at it, I almost don't want to say this. If you look at it like it looks like Joey Gallo right now. But last season was a much better contact rate. Hopefully he can come back to something like that. I have a lot of hope for Melendez, but it's a tough one because he was a top 100 pick, and you were hoping for that production. He has not given it to you. That's a lot of pain for the first half. We're gonna lug these 6 bodies onto the cart and drag them away from y'all. For y'all, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Hopefully the All-Star break starts out with a bang, or after the All-Star break starts out with a bang, and there'll be no one for Bring Out Your Dead.
Well, I was actually hoping for the All-Star break, Bring Out Your Dead All-Star team.
Oh, we could have done that.
I think Art did it last year, or maybe the end of the year. I don't know if it was All-Star break, but
we'll do it for the end of the year.
It's incredible.
The All Bring Out Your Dead team.
It's great.
We'll see. Lance Lynn is definitely, and Mendo are definitely.
Yeah, chance.
You could tell how much he loves his Lance Lynn, which leads us perfectly into Marty's buys and sells going in for the second half here. Go ahead, take it away, Marty.
Well, I want to say I do not want to shout out all Major League Baseball teams who decided to not post their starting rotations. I think we're still waiting for like 4 or 5 of them. It's absolutely incredible. Does that mean like the pitcher who goes on Saturday doesn't know they're going to pitch yet? Or they just haven't done it yet? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question, honestly.
All right, so I'm going to go through the so it's trade season. You know, this is the time where hopefully you took these 3-4 days to evaluate your team, look what you've done well in, look what you need help with, and everything like that. I'm going to start off with players. I feel like, and I'm not saying get rid of these guys because they're going to suck. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is their value right now is the highest it's going to be moving forward. So if you have the ability to, and I'm looking at pitchers specifically here, so pitchers to sell for the second half. So if you need a hitter or you're looking for a relief pitcher or something like that, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 guys for you. So starting with number 1, Nathan Eovaldi, and I say that as a man who has Nathan Eovaldi everywhere. I'm still scared. 117.2 innings so far this year, 2.83 ERA. Eovaldi, 2.83 ERA. No one expected that.
He built different.
Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely incredible. But his K percentage, 24, which is fine, slightly above average. 3.39 FIP. The xERA is higher. He's been lucky on the BABIP so far. It's only at 267. In his velo, which I feel like there's like 4 or 5 guys on Twitter every single week who post about how his velo is going down. Shout out to Dave McDonald as one of them. But yeah, so the velo is going down. I don't believe he's going to be able to maintain this. He's already had almost 120 innings. Another 40, 50, 60 innings. We will see. With Eovaldi, I feel like if you drafted him, he drafted him as like your 5th or 6th starter. So you should have 3 or 4 established arms. I would try to go get a big bat if you need it. Moving on to Kodai Senga, New York Mets. Another guy who I have a bunch of exposure to. 89.2 innings pitched. He has a 3.31 ERA, a 3.77 xFIP, a 29.5 K percentage. But here it is. Here it is, guys. 12.3 walk percentage.
Choo! Doggy.
BABIP, 275. And what we've seen with pitchers that come over from, whether it's an international pitcher or a rookie going into their sophomore year, the more times batters see you, the harder it's going to be on the pitcher. So there's going to be, I feel like this is the top of the mountain for him. I would try to move him if you can. That walk percentage is just brutal. Moving on, Tommy Henry, Arizona Diamondbacks, 74.1 innings pitched, 3.75 ERA, 5.32 xFIP. So 3.75 ERA, 5.32 xFIP, a 16% K percentage, and nearly a 10% walk percentage. What can you get for Tommy Henry? Probably not too much. But if you like put him on, like say you do a 2-for-1 trade and you make him the second guy, just like kind of like a throw in. Some people just look at the overall ranking of a player for that year, especially if you're on Yahoo. A lot of people, he's top 100. Okay, that's not too bad. Tommy Henry is terrible, and this is as good as he's going to get for the rest of the year. TED Talks, I'm glad you joined. Dane Dunning is on the list. Get rid of this man. Get him out of here.
Don't do it to my guy.
I'm sorry, Dane Dunning, you got to go, brother. 92
How much longer does he have to do this for you to buy in?
He's got a 2.84 ERA with a 4.43 whip. Let me ask you this, David. Is Dunning a 2.84 ERA guy?
He might be like a 3.5 this year, which would not be bad.
Dane Dunning. So he's a better pitcher than Aaron Nola.
Wait. So let's
that's what we're talking about.
Let's bet on his ERA for the season. So it's 2.84 right now.
Yeah, it's 2.84. xFIP is 4.43. Now, when you say that, do you mean at the end of the year? What is his overall ERA going to be?
Yeah, what's his overall ERA at the end of the year?
So he's at 92 innings pitched. How many more innings do you think he goes?
Maybe he goes like 150 this year. I don't know what he did. What did he threw last year?
I don't have it in front of me, but
I'll check. But
if he's at 2.84 now. 4.7 to end the year. That's what I'm going to say. 4.
That'll be his end of the year ERA.
End ERA 4.72. Let's get dirty with it. And here's why. K percentage 15.9. awful. He's not sure. I know he's a ground ball pitcher and he tries to limit contact and all that. BABIP 268. He's gotten lucky with the BABIP. He's stranded almost 80% of all runners. That should come down to about 77-ish. So he's gotten a little bit lucky with that. But yeah, Dane Dunning, get rid of him. Aaron Savale, Guardians starter, 52.2 innings, 2.56 ERA, 4.43 xFIP. So 2.56 ERA and a 4.43 WHIP, or a 4.43 xFIP. I don't like that there. And then Bryce Elder to round it off. People you need to sell. Over 106 innings, Elder has a 2.97 ERA with a 3.95 xFIP. Elder strikes out 18.4%, which is way below league average. He has nearly an 8% walk percentage, and the BABIP, he's been lucky, and the batter stranded on base have been lucky as well. So players I would sell, pitchers I would sell going into the second half to upgrade, whether it's your hitting or relief pitching. Nathan Eovaldi, Kodai Senga, Tommy Henry, Dane Dunning, Aaron Savale, and Bryce Elder.
Can we talk about Dane Dunning again for a second? What do you think?
I feel like this might be a Dane Dunning podcast. We need to get this guy on. Doc, email him. Let's see if we can get him on.
We should. We got to get Uncle Ted Talks to be on that too.
For you.
Uncle Ted, I want you to know that I'm advocating for your Dunning pick. Let me say this.
Did you see what he put?
I did. I'm gonna put it on
Okay.
He said Dane Dunning's gonna keep it up all year, and you've been doubting him. So who's to say he has a lower ERA than Strider is what Uncle Ted Talk says by the end of the year. Strider's got an over 4 ERA, I think, or if it's just got under 4. What's Dane Dunning's career ERA? What do you think?
Career 5.02.
4.06.
Okay.
That's his career ERA.
How many innings?
397 career innings.
Oh, yeah. So he's going to be a lot worse.
And I'm going to add this too. He threw 153 innings last year. So he could go like 180 this year. He's on pace to go like 180. Let me ask you this. The previous 2 years, his WHIP was 144 and 143. This year it's 113. So it's the best WHIP he's had since his rookie season with the White Sox, where he only threw 34 innings.
Do you happen to have his BABIP from those 2 years prior as well?
I can look that up. But again, the strikeouts aren't great. But I mean, he's a career.
No, they're not great. They're abysmal. 15.9.
A career 4.06 ERA pitcher isn't bad.
If you want to, more power to you. But here's the thing, though. Either way, you're kind of making my point, though. Like, he's still not a 2.84 pitcher.
No, but he'll regress some. But I mean, if he finishes the year as like a 3.8 pitcher, that's somebody he'll regress some, but it's not going to blow up your ratios.
If you're in a 15-team league, why not? But if you're in a smaller league, dare I say, a 10-team league, I would look to move him. I think that'd be good. But let's go to my who I would buy very quickly. Number 1 is Taj Bradley, Tampa Bay Rays. Innings pitched 61.1. His ERA is 5.43 with a 3.20 WHIP, 29.7 K percentage, and the BABIP's 316. So he's gotten a little unlucky with the BABIP. So he's at 61.1 innings. Last year he pitched 133. So he's about halfway done. That 60, maybe 70, maybe 80 innings will last you to the rest of the year, as long as the Rays don't, ray it up. So I would be less. Thank you, Ted. I would be less worried about his innings. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. And a 29.7 K percentage for Bradley. I absolutely love that. Number 2 on my who would I buy? Lance Lynn. There he is, the big boy. Chicago White Sox. 103 innings pitched, 6.03 ERA. And this is what I'm betting it on. I think you can get him basically free. I don't think you. I don't think you basically get. I know you're laughing, David. With Lynn, 6.03 ERA, 3.64 xFIP, a 27.9 K percentage, and only 64.1 batters left on base. He's given up a lot of home runs. He's gotten unlucky with the home runs. I don't feel like it's going to continue forever. I think if he lands somewhere around 3.7 for the rest of the season, you're going to be really happy. And then lastly, this is a deep cut. Mackenzie Gore, 89.2 innings pitched with a 4.42 ERA and a 3.53 xFIP. So Mackenzie Gore, that's FIP looks good. K percentage 27.8, so on par with Lynn. The walk percentage is high, 10.1. But he's at a 347 BABIP. So he's gotten extremely unlucky with balls in play. And I feel like you can get him just as a quick add-on. So players I would buy, Taj Bradley, Lance Lynn, and Mackenzie Gore on that cheap, low. Yeah.
All right. Well, from this conversation, I realized, and Uncle Ted adds to buy Christopher Sanchez.
I like Sanchez.
Yeah, he'd be a good ad.
Yeah, I also like Bradford a little bit if he gets a rotation spot.
Cody Bradford.
Yeah.
Uncle Ted, I believe you need to make an appearance on the show before the season's over. If anything, to please for me.
Just see what he looks like.
Yeah, Uncle Ted, we need you on the show. So please accept the invite.
Art's brother the whole time.
Accept the invite, please. And then he says, buy Landon Knack, best Dodgers prospect pitcher, and he's on the taxi squad. So a couple names for you, Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted, definitely, he's out there with some of his takes.
Ted's checking the taxi squad. Honestly, I haven't heard taxi squad since 2020. I didn't know that was still a thing.
And then our buddy Ray Dominguez, who comes in here every once in a while, he says, hey, people, for when Encarnacion Strand? We've been asking ourselves that for weeks.
David, you might have some insight on that because you do the call up, but I don't see a spot for him right now.
That's the problem. There is no spot for him, and even though he's literally destroying AAA, are you going to bring him up to play 2 games a week and just sit on the bench 5 days a week? Like
Joey Votto.
Is literally just because they have no spot for him right now. If there's an injury, how
many home runs does Votto have?
7.
What's the number?
7 in 17 games. Votto has.
Eric, how many do you need to hit?
If he hits 19, I'm out a lot of money.
19.
He's at 7 though.
He's at 7 in 17. Did you guys ever read the book Growing Up, the kid who only hits home runs?
No, I never.
I was more of a Wild Things kind of kid.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm gonna put it in the private chat. Put the link to there, but that's a book, and that's Joey Votto right now.
The kid that hits home runs.
The kid who only hit home runs by Matt Christopher.
You should just start betting Joey Votto home runs to try to start making your money back.
So that's what I thought about doing.
Real talk. Hedge your bets. Yeah.
Real talk. The only thing that I could do now is if he's on the IL, because then he's missing like 10.
You already got your IL stint. You got a long IL stint.
I know, man.
He's ready to go.
I know. I'm so annoyed.
Joey home run Votto. Doc, do you want to tell us about your pitching streaming and you wanted to brag about your success this season?
You know what? I actually don't want to brag about my success. I want you guys to play a little bit of a guessing game. So there's been 39 starts of people I've streamed. I would like for you to guess the record, the innings or the whip, and the ERA.
Can you tell me how many decisions there have been total?
There have been 29 decisions.
Okay.
And I'll give you
for those playing at home, how many pitchers?
39 starts, 29 decisions.
Okay.
And I'll give you a hint. It's 215.2 innings pitched.
250. Okay.
I'll say
I spent an hour. I spent an hour yesterday calculating this, by the way.
I'll say 21 wins.
What are the categories that we're looking for?
ERA, whip, and I guess let's do strikeouts in 215.2.
This is the boring part of the podcast, everybody.
I'm having fun.
We have 6 people tuned in. This is the max right now.
You just outed our YouTube viewership currently, Eric.
So, Dave, what are you guessing?
I said 21.
So you think I went 21-8?
While we're going through that, Ray asks also for Colt Keith and Ronnie Mauricio. I think Colt Keith will be up within the first week or two after the All-Star break. I think the Tigers aren't playing for anything, so they will actually let him come out there. And
what makes you say that, David?
I should ask you as the Tigers fan. What do you think?
No, they're trash. They're terrible.
I think
they're
Colt
still
Keith
on pace to hit their over win total.
Colt Keith will definitely, I think, be up within the first week or two. Mauricio is a little harder. I know that they've been getting some work with him in the outfield because there's no spots for him on the infield where he naturally plays. But I don't see him playing there every day unless they really need a spark in their line, which they kind of do. But Tommy Pham, there was the injury scare, but apparently he's going to be okay. And in fact, if Tommy Pham's still okay,
we've heard this before.
Yeah,
injury scare, but he'll be okay.
I would say Mauricio will be up before the end of the year, but I'll be shocked if it's before like August or September.
All right, gentlemen, do you have your guesses in?
I did.
No, go ahead. Art, you go.
Oh, sorry. I thought you went 17-12 with a 4 ERA, a 1.25 WHIP, and 175 Ks.
Art, your mistake was Eric wouldn't be bragging if his ERA was that high.
Maybe.
4 is well below league average, actually.
And then how many strikeouts?
Oh no, he's
175.
It's gonna be a sub 3.5 ERA, or else Eric would not have taken the time to do this.
No, even if it was, I need to hold myself accountable.
Okay, well, even if it was, so okay. So,
all right. Wins 19, ERA 3.98,
too high, Marty.
WHIP 1.21, strikeouts 201.
Okay.
21-8, a 2.78 ERA. I'll say a 115 WHIP and 211 strikeouts.
David, you know all of these pitchers are less than 50% owned in ESPN.
It doesn't matter. You're bragging like crazy, so good.
22-7.
Oh, so I was on one win off. Okay.
Wow.
I was better than expected. A 3.51 ERA.
So I said 3.5, right? That was I know you, or do I know you?
1.27 WHIP and 190 strikeouts. 5.5 Ks per outing. I picked 21 teams to stream against. Used no pitcher more than twice. The team I picked most was the Royals against 6, the Tigers against 4, and nobody more than twice.
Oh, that's good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
SP Streamer might be out of a job.
Nah. SP Streamer caters to a deeper audience than the ESPN.
Yeah, that is very true. The ESPN 50% own pool is very deep.
But when you need somebody to stream and you're playing
true.
your brother in a 12-team
league, who are you going to call?
You call me, and I tell you what to do to beat your brother in a matchup.
No, that's remarkable. I 22-7 is strong. That's strong. That's Bob Welch Cy Young year type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I picked 21 teams to stream against in this time.
Oh.
That's good. You didn't just pick on the A's or something, which is good.
I only picked the A's twice.
I was going to say Jose Barrios has a 3.50 ERA with a 1.14 WHIP. So you're a good Jose Barrios right now.
I will take that.
Or
he could be bad.
Dare I say a Justin Verlander 3.60 ERA, 1.20 WHIP.
That's closer.
Whoa, little Jay Verlander. That's I mean, you look at it that way. You've done very well. What's
your guys' opinion, as Ray asked about Eury Perez? We all think they're manipulating his innings, right? Because the fact that they're contending and they just don't want him to. Yeah,
of course.
They said this 3 months ago. You should have traded him.
Yeah, unfortunately for redraft purposes, it's not going to be worth holding on to.
If you're in a playoffs league, you can hold on to him.
True.
Yeah.
But are you going to need that bench spot for? I mean, you're going to have to hold on to him, and I mean, skip starts. I mean, it's tough, man. If you're in like
deep benches, I think you stash him.
Yeah, if you have a deep. I would try to stash him if I could, because he's going to be valuable later in the season. Because I think of all the rookies, he's the best one.
And think about this too. Like, we all thought Alek Manoah might not pitch again this year, right? Got rocked for 11 runs against 17-year-olds. And then less than 2 weeks later, they brought him up. Like, so many people dropped him in redraft, and obviously he's only had one good outing. But like, everybody's probably assuming the worst, and maybe they bring him back up in a month when they're fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's the innings pitch, though. I mean, it's like he's never even got close to where he's at. 75 was the most he was doing. Yeah, not good.
Yeah, I mean, Perez is going to be tricky. If you have deep bench spots, he's worth an ad. But as Uncle said, even if he comes back this weekend, like, okay, if you look at the innings he's pitched this season, like he's already approaching where it's going to be a problem. I'm going to pull up his innings right now. But the Marlins are going to make the playoffs as long as they don't completely fall off.
He's at 53.1 innings right now.
What did he throw last year?
The most 2022. What is it? 75 innings.
Yep. So he's already
77. Just for
I mean, he's already
watching.
He's already 2/3 of the way there. And if they make the playoffs, they're going to want him to pitch in the playoffs. So just keep in mind, usually the standard rule is 50 innings above what your previous one was. That's like kind of like a safe benchmark that people put out there. So if you want to say that maybe he has 120 innings,
you know what they should do? They should put him as the closer for the regular season.
No, just have him pitch like the last 3 innings, 7, 8, 9.
Not a bad idea. Puck's been awful.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see, but I'm glad the Marlins are relevant. Yeah, I think that, Doc, we will hold off on your game because we actually filled this show pretty nicely. We thought we would have to fill in some content, but we just did our thing.
That's what happens when you ramble, David.
Did I?
You guys are brutal.
You know, all the stats information I gave at the beginning that I spent a lot of time writing.
I was going to say that's very valuable because understanding the landscape in 2023 is extremely important. Because with baseball, it changes so much. It's unlike any other fantasy sport where every year it could be completely different. It's actually embarrassing, to be honest with you, that the game of baseball changes this much every 6 months. I don't know. It annoys me.
Yeah.
Marty just gave a sobering thought as me and David are poking fun at one another.
All right. Well, let's wrap the podcast up on that. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, please make sure you guys on YouTube subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification bell so you never miss when we go live on Thursday nights. If you guys are on the podcast version, you guys know that you can listen to us and give us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify. Leave a review. It's greatly appreciated if you are, again, tuning in every single week. Next week, we'll be back with the normal layout of content when we have games to talk about. And hopefully we'll see some great stuff coming in the baseball second half. But for Marty Party, for a Lil Cheesecake, for Doc, I'm DMendy. We're going to make like a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. Talk to you guys next week.